My mother-in-law switched my baby at the hospital 8 years ago. When I finally discovered the truth through a random DNA test, she did not cry. She did not apologize. She smiled and said, "I gave you the better one." The lawyer's office went silent. Then my husband asked the question that ended our marriage. "Which one do we keep?" I knew something was wrong the moment Diane handed me my daughter in the hospital room. Not immediate panic wrong. Just that small whisper in your brain that says pay attention. But I was tired. I had been in labor for 19 hours. My body felt like it had been turned inside out and put back together by someone who lost the instruction manual. So when my mother-in-law walked in with that too bright smile and said, "Let me hold her while you rest," I did not argue. I should have. I did not scream. I wanted to. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and shake her until the truth fell out in pieces I could hold. But I just stood there, frozen, waiting for her to explain how switching 2 babies in a hospital could possibly be what was best. Diane looked at me with that calm expression she always wore when she was about to justify something terrible. "You were so tired," she said. "You were not ready. That other baby, Emma, she was fussy, crying nonstop. I could tell. I could tell she was going to be difficult." I felt my chest tighten. "So you switched them?" Diane nodded like I had just understood basic math. Sarah was calm. She was perfect. "I knew you needed a baby you could handle." My voice cracked. "She was not yours to choose." Diane's eyes flashed. "I was helping you." I laughed. It came out sharp and broken. "You stole my daughter." Diane stood up. Her voice went cold. "I gave you a better one." The room spun. I sat down before I fell down. My hands were shaking so hard I had to press them into my knees. "Does Daniel know?" Diane hesitated. Just for a second. That was answer enough. "Oh my God," I whispered. "You did this alone." Diane straightened her shoulders. "I did what a mother does. I protected my son. I protected you. That other baby would have destroyed you." I stared at her. "Her name is Emma." Diane waved a hand. "I do not care what her name is." I stood up. My legs felt weak, but I made them work. "I am telling Daniel." Diane's face shifted. The calm cracked. "If you do that, you will destroy this family." I turned toward the door. Diane followed me. "Think about Sarah," she said. Her voice was louder now, desperate. "Think about what this will do to her." I stopped. My hand was on the doorknob. I did not turn around. "You should have thought about that 8 years ago." Then I left. I drove home. I sat in the driveway for 20 minutes before I could move. Then I went inside. Daniel was in the kitchen making dinner. Sarah was at the table doing homework. Everything looked normal. Everything looked like a lie. "Hey," Daniel said. He smiled. "You okay?" I set my bag down. I looked at Sarah. She glanced up at me. She smiled. That same small, careful smile she always gave me. The one that never quite reached her eyes. And I realized something. I loved her. I loved Sarah. She was the child I raised. She was the one who called me Mom. But she was not mine. Not biologically. And that truth sat in my chest like a stone I could not swallow. "I need to talk to you," I said. Daniel's smile faded. "Now?" I nodded. "Now." Sarah looked between us. "Is everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Everything is fine, sweetie. Keep working. We will be right back." Daniel followed me into the bedroom. I closed the door. I turned to face him. And I said, "Your mother switched our baby at the hospital." Daniel stared at me. Then he laughed. Not a real laugh. A confused, nervous laugh. "What?" I told him everything. The DNA test, the hospital records, Jessica Brennan, Emma, Diane's confession. With every sentence, Daniel's face changed. Confusion became disbelief. Disbelief became horror. Horror became something else, something I did not recognize. When I finished, he sat down on the bed. He did not say anything for a long time. Then he looked up at me. "Are you sure?" I pulled out my phone. I showed him the results. He read them slowly. His hands started shaking. "Oh my God," he whispered. Then he stood up. "We need to call the police." I grabbed his arm. "Wait." He turned. "Wait? Rachel, she committed a crime." "I know. But if we call the police, this becomes public. Sarah will find out. Emma will find out. Their entire lives will explode." Daniel pulled away. "They already exploded. We just did not know it yet." He was right. I knew he was right. But I could not breathe. I could not think. I just kept seeing Sarah's face. That careful smile. That trust. Daniel paced. Then he stopped. "We need to talk to Jessica." I nodded. "I know." He looked at me. "Do you have her number?" I shook my head. "Just her social media." Daniel pulled out his phone. "Then we message her." I grabbed his hand. "Daniel, we cannot just message her and say, 'Hey, I think our babies were switched.' We need to meet her. In person. With proof." He stared at me. Then he nodded. "Okay. Okay. You are right." We sat down together. We drafted a message. It took us an hour to get it right. We did not want to sound insane. We did not want to scare her. But we needed her to understand this was real. Finally, we sent it. "My name is Rachel. I believe our daughters were switched at birth 8 years ago at Riverside General. I have DNA evidence. Please contact me. This is not a joke." We waited. 1 hour, 2 hours. Sarah went to bed. We sat in the living room staring at our phones like they were bombs waiting to go off. Then, at 10:47 at night, Jessica responded. "I need to see the evidence. Meet me tomorrow, noon, Riverside Park." I showed Daniel. He exhaled. Okay. This is happening." That night I did not sleep. I kept thinking about Emma, about the 8 years I missed, her first word, her first steps, her first day of school. All of it gone. Stolen. And I kept thinking about Sarah, about the moment I would have to tell her the truth, that I was not her mother, that the woman she called Grandma was the reason her life was a lie. The next day, Daniel and I drove to Riverside Park. We did not bring Sarah. We told her we had errands. She did not ask questions. She never did. Jessica was already there, sitting on a bench. She looked exactly like her photo. Tired, real, scared. When she saw us, she stood up. We walked over. Nobody shook hands. Nobody smiled. We just stood there. "Show me," Jessica said. I handed her my phone. She read the DNA results. Her face went white. She sat down hard on the bench. "Oh my God," she whispered. Daniel sat beside her. "We are so sorry." Jessica looked up at him, then at me. "You are sorry? Your mother did this." Her voice cracked. "She stole my daughter." I nodded. "I know, and we are going to fix this." Jessica laughed. It sounded like breaking glass. "Fix this? How do you fix 8 years?" I did not have an answer. None of us did. Jessica pulled out her phone. She showed us a picture. Emma, smiling, holding a soccer ball. "That is my daughter," she said. "I raised her alone. Her father left when I was pregnant. I worked 2 jobs. I did everything right, and she is not even mine." Daniel's voice was quiet. "We need to do a DNA test. Official. Legal." Jessica nodded. "I already ordered one." She looked at me. I knew something was wrong. Emma does not look like me. She does not act like me. Everyone said kids are different. I believed them, but I knew something was off. Tears started falling. She did not wipe them away. "I want my daughter back." My chest tightened. "So do I." Jessica's eyes met mine, and in that moment, I saw it. The same grief, The same rage, the same horrible understanding that we were both victims. But we were also both mothers, and now we had to choose. Do we tell the girls? Do we switch them back? Do we share custody? Do we pretend this never happened? Every option felt like a bomb. Daniel stood up. We need a lawyer. Jessica nodded. I already called one. She handed me a card. He specializes in cases like this. I stared at the card. Cases like this. Like there was a manual. Like this happened enough to have a category. When do we meet him? I asked. Jessica checked her phone. Thursday, 2 o'clock. Thursday came too fast. We met at the lawyer's office. His name was Martin Callahan. He was older. Calm. He had seen terrible things and learned how to talk about them without flinching. We sat in his office. Me, Daniel, Jessica. And Martin laid it out. This is a criminal case. Switching infants is kidnapping. Fraud. Your mother-in-law will face charges. Daniel swallowed. What about the girls? Martin leaned forward. That is the complicated part. Legally, you each have a biological daughter you did not raise. The court will have to decide custody. Best case scenario, you share. Worst case, the court prioritizes the biological mother and reverses custody entirely. I felt sick. So I could lose Sarah. Martin nodded. Yes. Jessica's voice was tight. And I could lose Emma. Martin continued. There is another option. You could agree privately. Co-parent. Slowly introduce the girls to the truth. Let them build a relationship with their biological mothers over time. No court, no media, just family. Daniel looked at Jessica. Would you do that? Jessica stared at him, then at me. I do not know you. I do not trust you. Your mother destroyed my life. Her voice broke. But I do not want to hurt Emma. So yes, I will try. We agreed to meet again. With Diane. Martin said we needed her confession on record. Daniel called his mother. He told her to come to the office. She refused. He told her if she did not come, we would call the police. She came. When Diane walked into that office, she looked smaller, older, but not sorry. Not yet. Martin asked her to explain what happened. Diane sat down. She folded her hands, and she told the truth. I switched the babies in the nursery. It was easy. The hospital was busy. Nobody was paying attention. I saw Emma crying. I saw Sarah sleeping. I knew Rachel could not handle a difficult baby. So I switched their bracelets. I switched their bassinets. And I gave Rachel the one I knew she could love. Jessica stood up. You had no right. Diane looked at her. You were a single mother with no support. I gave your daughter a better life. Jessica's voice shook. You stole her. Diane's eyes hardened. I saved her. Martin held up a hand. Mrs. Hoffman, what you did is a federal crime. You will be charged. Diane's face finally cracked. I was protecting my family. Daniel's voice was cold. You destroyed it. The meeting ended. Diane was arrested 2 days later. The media found out. Our lives became headlines. Mother-in-law switches babies. Family torn apart. 8 years of lies. Photographers camped outside our house. Reporters called non-stop. And through it all, Sarah and Emma had no idea. Until we had to tell them. We decided to do it together. Me, Daniel, Jessica. We sat the girls down in a neutral place, a therapist's office. We told them the truth. We told them gently, carefully. We told them they were loved, they were wanted. Nothing was their fault. Sarah cried. Emma went silent. Then Emma looked at me, and she said, Are you my real mom? I nodded. I could not speak. Emma stood up. She walked over to me, and she hugged me. I held her. I held my daughter. For the first time in 8 years. And I broke. Sarah looked at Jessica. Jessica was crying too. Sarah's voice was so small. Do I have to leave? Jessica shook her head. No, baby. Nobody is leaving. We are just adding more people to love you. But Sarah did not believe her. I could see it in her eyes. She thought she was being replaced. The next few months were agony. Therapy, court hearings, custody arrangements. Diane pleaded guilty. She was sentenced to 5 years. Daniel barely spoke to her. I never did. Sarah struggled. She pulled away from me. She clung to Daniel. She was angry, confused, heartbroken. Emma adjusted faster. She was curious. She asked questions. She wanted to know me. And slowly, painfully, we started to build something. It was not perfect. It was not what I imagined. But it was real. 2 mothers. 2 daughters. One impossible truth. And the long, hard work of learning to be a family anyway. My mother-in-law switched my baby at the hospital 8 years ago. When I finally discovered the truth through a random DNA test, she did not cry. She did not apologize. She smiled and said, I gave you the better one. The lawyer's office went silent. Then my husband asked the question that ended our marriage. Which one do we keep? I knew something was wrong the moment Diane handed me my daughter in the hospital room. Not immediate panic, wrong. Just that small whisper in your brain that says, pay attention. But I was tired. I had been in labor for 19 hours. My body felt like it had been turned inside out and put back together by someone who lost the instruction manual. So when my mother-in-law walked in with that too bright smile and said, let me hold her while you rest, I did not argue. I should have. Sarah was born at 3:47 in the morning at Riverside General. The hospital was understaffed that night. 2 other women delivered within an hour of me. The hallways smelled like disinfectant and exhaustion. Nurses moved fast, checking charts, switching rooms, managing chaos with clipboards and controlled voices. My husband Daniel was passed out in the chair beside my bed. He had been awake for over 24 hours. His hand was still holding mine, but his head was tilted back and his mouth was open like a broken hinge. I did not wake him. He looked too peaceful. Diane had been in the waiting room the entire time. She insisted. She said she wanted to be there the second her grandchild arrived. At the time, I thought it was sweet. I thought it was love. I did not know it was strategy. When the nurse brought Sarah back from the initial checkup, Diane was standing in the doorway like she had been waiting for a cue. She did not knock. She just walked in, arms open, smile wide, eyes sharp. Oh my God, she whispered. She is perfect. I smiled. I was still floating in that hazy post-birth fog where everything feels both real and distant. Diane reached for Sarah before I could even adjust my grip. Let me see her, she said. It was not a question. I hesitated for half a second. Then I handed her over because saying no to Diane had always been harder than it should be. Diane cradled Sarah like she had done this 1,000 times. She probably had. She raised 2 kids. She knew how to hold a newborn. But something about the way she looked at Sarah made my stomach twist. Not in a good way. In a this does not feel right way. She has my nose, Diane said. I blinked. She is 2 hours old. Diane laughed. I am serious. Look. She tilted Sarah's face toward the light. I could not see anything except a tiny sleeping baby who looked like every other tiny sleeping baby. But Diane kept talking. And her chin. That is Daniel's chin. No question. I nodded because agreeing with Diane was easier than questioning her. That was my first mistake. Diane stayed for another 15 minutes. She rocked Sarah. She whispered things I could not hear. Then a nurse came in to check my vitals, and Diane finally handed Sarah back. Get some rest, Diane said. You did amazing. Then she left, and I fell asleep. When I woke up, Sarah was in the bassinet beside my bed. Daniel was awake now, staring at her like he was trying to memorize her face. She is so small, he said. I reached for his hand. She is ours. He smiled, but somewhere in the back of my mind, that whisper was still there. Pay attention. The first few months were chaos. Sarah cried constantly. Not normal newborn crying, screaming. The kind that made neighbors knock on doors and ask if everything was okay. I tried everything. Feeding schedules, different formulas, swaddling techniques I learned from YouTube videos at 3 a.m. Nothing worked. Daniel started sleeping in the guest room because he had to work. I understood. Someone had to keep the lights on. But it meant I was alone with Sarah and her screaming and my growing belief that I was failing at the one thing I was supposed to know how to do. Be a mother. Diane visited often. Too often. She would show up unannounced with groceries or baby clothes or advice I did not ask for. You are holding her wrong, she would say. Or, she is crying because she can sense your stress. Every sentence felt like a test I was failing. But then she would take Sarah, and within minutes, Sarah would calm down. Diane would smile at me like she had just solved a puzzle I could not even see. It just takes practice, she would say. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, thank you. Daniel noticed, but he did not say anything. He loved his mother. She raised him and his sister Claire in a house where emotions were managed and problems were solved quietly. You did not yell. You did not accuse. You just handled things. So when I tried to tell him that his mother made me feel small, he said, she is just trying to help. And I swallowed it. I swallowed it for 8 years. Sarah grew up. She was a good kid. Quiet. Obedient. A little too serious for someone so young. She did not throw tantrums. She did not test boundaries the way other kids did. She just existed in this careful, controlled way that everyone praised, but I found unsettling. She is so well behaved, people would say. I would smile and say thank you. But at night, I would watch her sleep and wonder why she felt like a stranger. Diane adored her. She called Sarah her little twin. She bought her clothes that matched her own style. She signed her up for piano lessons because Diane played piano. She talked about Sarah like she was a project she had been working on her whole life. And Sarah loved her back, more than she loved me. That part hurt the most. I was her mother. I carried her. I fed her. I stayed up with her when she was sick. But when Sarah scraped her knee, she ran to Diane. When she had a bad dream, she called Diane. When she was proud of something, she showed Diane first. Daniel said I was being sensitive. He said kids go through phases. He said Diane just had more experience. I nodded. I agreed. I swallowed it. Then last year, Sarah's school did a genetics unit in science class. They sent home DNA test kits as part of a family heritage project. It was optional. But Sarah was excited. She wanted to know where she came from. So I signed the consent form. I swabbed her cheek. I swabbed mine. I sent it in. I did not think twice about it. 6 weeks later, the results came back. I opened the email while Sarah was at school. I expected to see percentages. Irish, Italian, maybe some Eastern European. What I saw instead was a sentence that made my vision blur. No maternal match detected. I read it again. Then again. Then I called the company. There must be a mistake, I said. The woman on the phone was polite but firm. Our tests are 99.9% accurate. I hung up. I sat on the kitchen floor. I did not cry. I could not. My brain was too busy trying to rearrange 8 years of memories into something that made sense. I did not tell Daniel. Not yet. I needed to be sure. So I ordered another test. A private one. I swabbed Sarah again while she slept. I sent it to a different lab. 2 weeks later, the results came back. Same answer. No maternal match. But this time, there was more information. A partial match. A sibling or half-sibling. Someone genetically connected to Sarah. Someone who was not me. I started shaking. Not crying. shaking, because I knew. I did not have proof yet, but I knew. I grabbed my phone. I called the hospital. I asked for records from the night Sarah was born. They told me I needed to submit a formal request. I did. Then I waited. 3 days. 3 days of pretending everything was normal. 3 days of watching Sarah eat breakfast and do homework and laugh at cartoons while I died inside. When the records arrived, I read them alone in my car. 2 other babies were born that night. One was a boy, the other was a girl. Born at 3:52 in the morning, 5 minutes after Sarah. Same floor, same hallway. Her name was Emma. Mother's name was listed as Jessica Brennan. I wrote it down. Then I did something I probably should not have done. I found her on social media. Jessica Brennan lived 20 minutes away. She had brown hair, green eyes, a smile that looked tired but real, and a daughter, Emma, 8 years old. Emma had my nose, my eyes, my smile. I stared at the photo for so long my phone screen went dark. Then I opened it again. I zoomed in. I looked at every detail. The way Emma held her head, the way she stood, the shape of her hands. It was like looking at a picture of myself as a child. I sat in that car for 2 hours. Then I drove to Diane's house. I did not call first. I just showed up. I knocked. She opened the door with that same too bright smile. Oh, sweetie, what a nice surprise. I walked past her into the living room. I turned around. I looked at her, and I said, "What did you do?" Diane's smile did not fade. It froze, like a mask that had been glued on. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone. I showed her the DNA results. I showed her the hospital records. I showed her the photo of Emma. Diane's face went pale. Not shocked pale. Caught pale. She sat down slowly on the couch. She folded her hands in her lap. And then she said the thing that broke me. "I did what was best."